It's time to update our rest of the season rankings. Do us a huge favor. If you enjoy this video every week, drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed as well if you've been watching this season. Helps us grow the community. You're part of the family now. Start with running backs. This S tier is just an S tier, man. Holy smokes. Talk about an S tier.
This is the best S tier we've seen in a long time.
And I don't know what you think about this. On my personal rankings, I have Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor in their own tier, and I have Bijan in his own tier because they're technically both outscoring Bijan. I see the argument for putting all three of them in this tier, but realistically, I would prefer CMC and JT probably over Bijan rest of the season. Either way, you can arrange these guys any way you want. With Christian McCaffrey, he's the #1 player in fantasy football again. Like, I mean, he's either not healthy and he's not doing anything, or he's the #1. There's no in between. Zero in between. Jonathan Taylor had these two guys crushed my hopes and dreams this week in the flock league.
I was gonna say, how are you doing after that?
I'm not. I
didn't ask you for a reason. So.
I will continue to not talk about it. Okay. That's how good both of these running backs are. And then Bijan, of course, right behind him, pacing a little bit behind those guys in terms of points per game. Fact of the matter is, if you own one of these three running backs, you have a league winner on your team, and you don't trade them for anything.
Yeah, and then in the A tier, it's also going to be a 3-back tier because I do think at this point they're kind of separating themselves from the rest of the field, just in terms of consistency. Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously coming off of like his best game of the season, where he drops 36 and gets a ton of volume, ton of carries, very explosive, nice receiving ability as well. So they are heading in the bye week this week. You won't see much change for him in the near future, but I think this is definitely where he belongs. Same with Devon Achane and James Cook, Devon Achane and Josh Jacobs. James Cook will actually be in the next tier for a reason. We'll talk about that. But Achane, just with his volume and the fact that he's like the best player on that offense, and he's like the only good thing that they have. I know I'm like exaggerating. Jalen Waddle's good too, but literally he's their only chance at being competitive in a lot of these games because Tua looks terrible. Their play calling is awful, and he's the only one that can consistently transcend there. But you are going to see a little more fluctuation on a week-to-week basis, but his floor is so high because of his receiving upside. I mean, you've seen games of 10 and 9 targets. In the last 3 weeks, he's had 7, 6, and 5 and, gotten an extra like 8 points from some of that production on the ground that he showcases. So Josh Jacobs, also just, again, the motor of that offense in Green Bay, continuing to get a ridiculous amount of work. 2 touchdowns, 18 points, almost 19 points against Arizona when he was a game-time decision because of an illness. And he still played, and he looked fine. So he's, again, just going to be very consistent, very high floor because of his crazy amount of volume in this offense. And barring injury, all these guys are going to continue their tears the rest of the season.
So Nathan mentioned that we're going to talk about James Cook here. And James Cook, when you're looking at his games, his last 2 games where he hasn't scored a touchdown, obviously very tough. But when you're looking at the opponents in those games, Atlanta in week 6, New England in week 5. Now, it does need to be noted that Atlanta was touted as the top rushing defense against fantasy football running backs this year, and Christian McCaffrey ran all the frick over them. And I understand that Christian McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey, but James Cook is being talked about right now by almost everybody as one of the best running backs in the NFL. So theoretically, there shouldn't have been that big of a disconnect between his production against the Falcons versus CMC's. Now, with that being said, it's a tough matchup, and New England is honestly a fairly tough matchup as well. They had the bye in week 7, and then they've got Carolina in week 8, Kansas City's tough in week 9, but then they've got Miami in week 10. They also have some matchups down the stretch. They play Houston, they play Cincinnati, they play Philadelphia, but they also play Cleveland in the playoffs and New England again in the playoffs. So it's a mixed bag. Now, we talked a lot about touchdown regression for James Cook, and people, through the first 4 weeks were rightly making fun of that. But I think in weeks 5 and 6, you saw what he's, capable of doing without a touchdown. A guy that's one of the top fantasy football running backs does have the lowest floor of anybody here. And so that's what we're talking about, and that's why we have him in this tier here. And he could easily be A tier if you wanted to be. Javonte Williams is the running back 6 in the season. He continues to absolutely kick butt this year. He's on an offense that has to score 40 points a game to win, and he continually is rushing for over 100 yards. I mean, his statistics this year have been downright awesome. Again, 18.6 points per game. He's the running back 6. He's playing 75% of the snaps in that offense. He is a workhorse back you're going to start every week on a top 5 PFF graded offense. Saquon Barkley, on the other hand, continues to be ranked right next to guys like Javonte and is continuing to average, compared to Bucky, Javonte, even James Cook, 4 to 5 less points per game than those guys through now a 7-game sample size. It's pretty concerning. I mean, he's the running back 14 through the first 7 games of the season, playing 84% of snaps. It's not great, guys. I mean, we're just slowly creeping him down our rankings. Like, honestly, I'm shocked. I'm shell-shocked. And that should be evidenced by the amount of times we said to buy Saquon. I'm shocked he hasn't been able to figure it out. But he's going to be here rest of the season. In the same tier with Cam Skattebo, who I don't understand. We have Cam Skattebo ranked 5.5 spots average or higher than the average expert rank on the site. Nathan and I both have him as a top 10 running back. which means that the other experts have him in like the 15 to 20 range. And here's my question to everybody who's thinking that about Cam Scatteroo. He is the running back 8 on the season, and he didn't play in week 1. Yeah. He had 13, 24, 13, 14, 31, and 18 points for Cam Scatteroo. And he's scoring 18 points, 14 points, and 13 points without a touchdown. His floor is higher than James Cook, and his ceiling is just as high at 31, 24 points. How is this guy not a top 10 running back rest of the season? Like, I get that he's playing on the Giants, but it doesn't matter. This Giants offense has become kind of spicy.
It's a solid offense.
It's become kind of spicy.
Not bad at all.
Dable's not a bad offensive head coach, and Jackson Dart has kind of opened things up for them there. But it doesn't matter because he's been producing, man. Like, I mean, they played Denver in week 7, and he had 18 points. So I think Cam Scatteroo, I think people are absolutely sleeping on. Kyra Williams as well. Is one guy that we recommended to buy, 15.6 points per game. He's the running back 9 through the first 7 weeks of the season. We expect more of the same from Kyron. Kyron's a great running back, and the advantage that he has over a lot of the guys in the C tier here is the offense that he's on and the amount of red zone opportunities he's going to get. So it's a B tier where we have a lot of guys that have a question or two, but otherwise remain every week starters for your lineups.
So Bucky's going to be at the top of the C tier. This is really the only reason he's not up there with the guys in the B tier is he's not healthy right now, and we don't really know for sure. We don't know an exact timeline on when he's going to be back. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But again, I mean, he's been pretty quickly declared out for the following week. Like way before the game is even about to happen. I mean, if you remember heading into the Detroit game, he was already declared out a week before.
Right.
So it's not looking like any better than it was when he was kind of questionable when he missed his first game, and now it's just like, yeah, he's out. Yeah, he's out. Yeah, he's out. Okay, well, when's he going to be back? I would really like to know, and then we'll move him up back in the tier where he belongs the rest of the season. Again, it's just how much time is he going to miss? Ashton Jency, I think at this point, with that offense being so lackluster, Geno looking terrible, like maybe they end up making a QB change long term. It's not going to be any better with Kenny Pickett as a backup there. But I think Jency is going to kind of be boom bust this season, and that's okay. I mean, he still is very talented. He's still a great start every single week. You have to start him because he's a bell cow running back there, gets plenty of volume. But you are going to have some lower floor weeks, very similar, honestly, to Quinshon Judkins, which they're now together in the same tier back to back. They are in very similar situations where they're just like Quinshon's just getting a ton of volume, right? He's getting upwards of 25 carries. He got 25 carries in what was a game script built for him in that essentially monsooned and tornado that they were playing in Cleveland. Had 3 goal line carries, 2 goal line carries with 2 touchdowns there, and then he had a big one for a third tud on the day. He's not going to be ultra efficient every single week because, again, it's kind of predictable what they're going to do because they can really only do something like one thing effectively, consistently, and that is give Quinshon Judkins the ball. The rest is just a toss-up because Dylan Gabriel is not that great. So he is also going to demonstrate kind of a lower floor as well. If he doesn't find the end zone any given week, then he might be in the single digits, and that's just the reality. And then Derrick Henry will also be in this tier. He will be, I would say, on the up. They've gotten through the hardest part of their schedule. Like the hardest part of their schedule was the first 6 games of the year. Yep. And now they've had this bye week. Lamar's going to be back. I would look for Baltimore, who started to show some signs of life defensively. As well. Like I would look to see them potentially get back to what they were able to showcase last season offensively a little bit more. And hopefully Henry can kind of be closer to the Henry that we saw last season, even like 80% of that. That would be ideal. He showed those flashes against the Rams, which was a tough matchup with no Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to be fine again rest of the season. We haven't moved him down that much.
All right, let's talk about the ugly tier here real quick. Travis Etienne, since his first couple games of the season, has been absolute dog cheeks. 18, 16, 11, and 19 points, and after week 4, you're like, hooray, and then 8, 9, and 6 points. The volume has gone down a little bit. The efficiency has gone down a little bit. The touchdowns have gone down a little bit. And it's all just not great. He's the running back 16 on the season right now, so he's been falling a little bit. That's about where we have him ranked as well. We both have him at 16. Breece Hall at 17. He had a terrible game. That offense is terrible. I hate owning Breece Hall right now in fantasy football. It sucks, but whatever. DeAndre Swift is somebody that's moved up. I have him a little bit higher than Nathan does. But with Swifty, I mean, I just keep looking at this team that keeps winning games, and they keep getting Swift so heavily involved. And Swift looks more efficient now. And so hopefully that sticks. But the reality is, he's the running back 12 in the season. And this range is so ugly that I just can't select between them sometimes. Amari and Hampton, I mean, again, I hope he's back earlier than week 13, but it might end up being week 13. And so that does suck. You have to, obviously, be very careful what type of team you're owning Omarion Hampton on. You have to be a pretty good team at this point. And then Jaylen Warren moves into this tier with another solid performance. He was injured, banged up. He came back. He didn't do much. And then now, in week 7 against Cincinnati, 19 points. He continues to get 15-plus carries per game. He had 5 targets in this game as well. So he just looks like somebody that's in a competent offense that's going to get a lot of volume. And he has less questions, in our opinion, than the rest of the guys in the F tier that Nathan's going to talk about.
Yeah, and in that F tier, we're going to have Alvin Kamara, who just does not look any better. There's no signs of life here. Kendra Miller did get injured for the rest of the season. He tore his ACL, which sucks for him. But for Alvin Kamara, it's like, okay, maybe he'll get all the volume there. Or maybe they'll just throw Devin Neal in there and he'll get all of Kendra's work. Again, it's so gross there. It's so bad. The only guy that's fantasy relevant at this point that you feel really good about on a weekly basis is Chris Olave. J.K. Dobbins has been... J.K. Dobbins, like his volume hasn't gone down. 14 carries the last 2 weeks, 4 and 9 points. Like you've seen the 2 least productive games from Dobbins possible, but one of them was a defensive slugfest between the Jets and Denver overseas. That was definitely not a Denver offense that you're going to see very often. And then the Giants, they were down 19-0 heading into the fourth quarter, and then Bo Nix just cut it loose.
J.K. Dobbins is James Cook light with how he gets his points.
That is facts.
Yeah, because now James Cook does get more targets, but with J.K. Dobbins, he gets 2 or less targets a game. You're relying on him running for 100 yards on a touchdown, and if he doesn't, he's going to score in single digits essentially.
Yeah, correct. So again, we feel fine about him rest of the season. I'm not going to move him down for getting the same amount of volume and just not finding the end zone. We have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in here as well. His volume has been going up. It might stay. I would expect it to remain consistent here with Daniels probably missing a significant amount of time. They're going to have to establish the run here. Mariota has his limitations as a passer. If he doesn't find the end zone, he's going to have probably the lowest floor of any of these guys, with the exception of maybe Montgomery. But it's kind of a mixed bag with him as well. We'll see if that offense can...
How many points Montgomery have?
Show any signs of life. 5 points. Yep. He had like 15 carries or something.
Yep.
Didn't find the end zone.
1.6 yards per carry.
Golly, yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, that is Monty, by the way. So Monty is second here. Again, he's settled in this tier, which is where he belongs. He's a low-end running back too. And you're going to have some good matchups. You're going to have some bad matchups. And he's going to have touchdowns or he's not going to have touchdowns. A ton of these guys are just touchdown or bust. Jordan Mason, I feel the least good about the guys that, again, we have above him, which is why he's going to be lower than these guys. But with Mason, Aaron Jones was just designated to come off of IR. So you're now going to see probably a split between those guys, again, where Aaron Jones gets a lot of the receiving work. Jordan Mason probably gets some work on the ground, but Jones will get some work on the ground as well. He'll take, anywhere from like 7 to 10 carries probably a game. And that is going to cut into just Mason's floor, which is going to be a lot lower than it was previously. Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle back-to-back. You tell me who's going to be the number 1 guy rest of the season. It might not be either. It might just be both, and that sucks. Chase Brown in an offense where they're passing the crap out of the ball because their defense is terrible, like it has been for the last couple of years. He had his best outing against Pittsburgh that we've seen all season. So that was promising for him, and maybe we'll end up moving him up our rankings because of that.
All right, we'll start the next year with Kenneth Walker. And I'm assuming you just haven't been able to change this yet. I have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet ranked back-to-back at this point. And I have
they should be.
I have Charbonnet ranked. So I'm going to put Charbonnet at the top of this tier. I'm going to go Charbonnet top and then Kenneth Walker second.
Yep.
We tried to warn you guys. Like I don't know what else we could have done there. So with Walker and Charbonnet, you don't want to start either of them. You don't want to start Woody Marks. The offensive line is terrible. Ramondre Stevenson, he's better than some of the options in this range, but he continues to get more and more work as the season goes on, which is surprising. Tony Pollard, not super productive in a bad offense. Kamani Vidal is just a rental. And so the G tier, again, full of guys that you're like plugging in your flex spots during bye weeks if you have to. Then the H and the I tier here. Trey Benson, Rashad White. For Trey Benson, you're banking on him coming back and scoring. Rashad White, you're taking the production now and not later. Travion Henderson continues to move down our ranks as well. You've got Aaron Jones coming back within the next week or two. RJ Harvey actually had a receiving touchdown. Tyjae Spears and Isaiah Pacheco. And then Kenneth Gainwell, Bachel Tutin, Tyron Tracy, Kareem Hunt, Michael Carter, and Nick Chubb, as well as Bam Knight as well. He's a short-term guy. But if you'd like to see our full rest season rankings on the site, and you can also see our weekly rankings so you can set your lineups, you can get them for free. I've got the link in the pinned comment. You can click on the link, create a free account with code DOMAIN, get all of our rankings, get our My Teams tool where you can plug in and see the power rankings for your league and see where you're at in your league. And you can have our trade calculator as well to help you make good trades for your team. But you can check that out. Again, create a free account, code DOMAIN. You can use all that stuff to win your league. We'll go to wide receivers and start with the S tier. Puka and Jamar Chase. and executive decision. I think this S tier is everybody until Jefferson. So I think it's Puka, Chase, JSN, because JSN, I think you can make just as good an argument to put JSN over Chase at this point.
He's so good.
He is ridiculous, and he's got a much better situation.
Yep.
So any of these guys, any way if Amon Ra is your wide receiver 1, cool. If Chase is your wide receiver 1, awesome. He's my wide receiver 1. If CeeDee Lamb's your wide receiver 1, amazing. If Puka still is, awesome. Don't care. These are the 5 S tier wide receivers. You have one of these guys on your team, you're feeling absolutely glorious about it. These are the clear top 5 in my opinion, and there's a teardrop after this.
Yeah, and that would be Justin Jefferson here. Jefferson has just been, there's no way around it, guys. He's just been mid for
by his standards.
What you invested in him for to begin the season as a first-round guy. I mean, there's very, very minimal difference, again, in the first 7 weeks of the season between what he's been doing and what a guy like Garrett Wilson has been doing, or Cortland Sutton. Like, really, it's been kind of just gross. And it's obviously not his fault. You just have a terrible QB situation right now where J.J. McCarthy looked pretty bad before he went down with the injury, and Carson Wentz provides a lot of volume, but he's only found the end zone once. That really has been the kicker here with Jefferson, is he's raised his floor is obviously very high, which he honestly, we should probably put him in a buy low video. We haven't done that.
No, we haven't.
Yet, but
there's a couple guys here.
There's Jefferson. People are kind of freaking out about McCarthy coming back, and I'm telling you, if anybody's going to get hurt in terms of consistency from McCarthy coming back, it's not JJ, it's Addison. Jefferson will transcend, and again, he has transcended a terrible situation where he still is going to finish as a wide receiver 1 on the season, even though it might not be at the level that you invested in him to begin the year. Like, you got the Chargers, Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, Green Bay. It's a mixed bag there in terms of like pass defense matchups, but he definitely belongs in this tier below all those elite guys in the S tier. Rashee Rice on his way up. I mean, if he continues this, if his volume stays at like 10 targets a game plus, and he's getting, a couple red zone targets a game, then he could be in the S tier. We'll keep an eye on that. And then same with Drake London. Though Drake London honestly has been a little more shaky week in and week out. And I think a lot of that has been attributed to Bijan. As productive as Bijan has been.
Penix hasn't been great either.
But Penix has been very shaky as well.
Yeah.
Situationally, it's just like, okay, I would prefer any one of Lamb, Amon-Ra, JSN, Chase Puka over London right now, even though it is close-ish. Again, we're getting to a point where we're splitting hairs here. All these guys in the A tier are still really solid.
Yeah, so that's why I have Rice as my 6 right now, because I have him above Jefferson and London rest of the season, just truthfully. I mean, he ran like 19 routes and had 10 targets. He's just insane. And it obviously it's on the much better offense than everybody else in that tier. So, in the B tier, we got Rome Odunze. Rome's taken a little bit of a step back, and that's partially because they've been, playing from ahead for the last couple of weeks. They haven't had to pass the ball a lot. The target volume has gone down, obviously. That's worth noting. And the touchdowns have gone down. We expect Rome to continue to. He's going to bounce back and have good games. Like, he just is. He's very talented, and that's a 4-2 team at this point. Like, they're going to be in games. They're going to be competitive, and we should have seen that coming with one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. Emeka Egbuka, he played against it was kind of a crap show game for him, for Baker, for Evans, who got hurt. Baker only had 12 points, I think, in that game. He
threw the ball 50 times.
He threw the ball 50 times and had 12 points. He only completed 28 passes.
Yeah, they were just throwing prayers at the end of the day because
they got so behind. They turned the ball over a lot. So Egbuka had 9 points in this game, and obviously the last 2 games since he's been injured, he's really fallen off. He's still the wide receiver 6 in the season, but they have New Orleans next and then a bye, and so I expect him to get back on track here very soon. He's still and now with Mike Evans out rest of the year and Chris Godwin still very hobbled. I mean, Egbuka projects very well for the rest of the year. He could be a buy low if you got somebody freaking out on him. Nico Collins, it continues to be a pretty mixed bag because he got hurt last night. It was last night because we're recording this on Tuesday. He got hurt last night against the Seattle Seahawks. He had 10 targets before he did get hurt, but he only played 51% of snaps. So you love the target volume on 50% snap share, but he's in the concussion protocol. And so you have to consider that. I still think, longer term, he projects just fine. That said, he's the wide receiver 33 on the season. He has had his bye week, so that's being factored in there. But even when you're looking at him from a points per game perspective this year, he's only averaging 12.7 points per game. The lowest mark of anybody above him, and then the next lowest guy in the rankings on the Flock site is 6 spots lower in A.J. Brown and then Ted McMillan. And so, we're about a game or two away from having the conversation of Nico Collins being pretty firmly in the C tier at this point rest of the season. Obviously, I still project him. Nathan and I both do. Nathan and I have him at 12 and 13. We project him to do well rest of the season. I think he will. So we're going to be a little bit careful with that. And then Garrett Wilson. Look, Garrett Wilson, I don't know if they've given a timeline. Hopeful for week 8.
They said hopeful for week 8. Which is great for me.
So
man.
we'll be optimistic.
And
it's a very good matchup. And Tyrod's good. And
he had the most amount of target volume all season was the game that Tyrod played.
13 targets in week 3 against Tampa Bay. So, and had 24 points that game. They play Cincinnati, and so if he can come back, he's going to be a big boost in both the short term and the long term for you. And so he's going to be the last guy in this tier. C tier, real quick, I'll do as well because Nathan is mid drink. Cortland Sutton, we have him right at the top of the C tier here. Another guy that's really he's the wide receiver 12 in the season, 16 points against the Giants. But nothing crazy. He's just solid. He's just like a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. That's where we have him ranked. Devontae Adams, we have him here, and he's probably not going to be the wide receiver 1 anymore. I think Puka's going to be back. But, he's still going to be a very solid option so far to flex. To put in your flex spots this year. Zay Flowers, hopefully you get Lamar back and he gets a boost soon. George Pickens falls down more into the wide receiver 2 range now that CeeDee Lamb is back. A.J. Brown had a good game, but he might be a sell high candidate, to be honest. And then Jalen Waddle still does project well rest of the season, even though he was playing in a windstorm in Cleveland this weekend, what was a very bad game. All of these guys now you're getting to have more question marks rest of the season. The D tier kind of starts to be really jumbled here.
Yeah, D tier. Ted McMillan has fallen down our rankings, both of our rankings. We're kind of trying to keep him in the top 16 there, be pretty optimistic. And the reality is it's just really, really tough to be optimistic at this point with what his floor ultimately is. And it's just a low floor. His volume has actually gone down the last couple of weeks. It hasn't been what we saw in the first 5 weeks of the season. And one, they were in a shootout against Dallas. The other one, they were just keeping the lead against the Jets. They've got Buffalo, Green Bay the next couple of weeks. It might be a little tough for Ted. He's probably going to finish the season as a low-end wide receiver too, and that's totally okay. He'll have some boom weeks as well. Chris Olave, he's on the way up our rankings. If he keeps doing what he's been doing the last couple of weeks, he's going to move up into that C tier. He looks just like a true number 1 wide receiver in the NFL in a terrible, terrible, terrible situation, but he continues to transcend. Very Garrett Wilson-esque, honestly. Deebo Samuel has been banged up. We'll see how bad he's impacted, not only by his own injury, but Jaden Daniels' injury as well. It's just kind of tough to tell with that whole offensive situation. Every player in that offense just seems very volatile right now, very up and down. Injured, not injured, healthy, not healthy, a lot of moving parts right now. It's tough to navigate that. So Deebo belongs here. Devonta Smith, settling in is the Devonta Smith that we know and love. Some absolutely amazing elite level number 1 wide receiver, number 1 games. And then you have some games that are that kind of sucks. But it's been more good than bad for Devonta Smith, over the last few weeks. And hopefully that continues, in an offense where it looks super ugly, but if Hurts continues to throw the ball to Devontae and A.J. Brown instead of Dallas Goedert in the red zone, then you're going to have more productive days from Devontae consistently. Brian Thomas just moving down our rankings quite a bit as well. He's banged up. The offense is looking worse and worse every week after that nice 4-1 start from Jacksonville. It's just not looking great, and Travis Hunter's on the up. DK Metcalf is DK Metcalf. He continues to be DK Metcalf. It doesn't matter if he's in Seattle, if he's on Pittsburgh, if he's on any team in the NFL, you know exactly what he is. He's boom. He's bust. He's going to have great games that win you weeks. He's going to have some awful games that really kind of hurt you quite a bit. Then you got Michael Pittman. He's the highest floor wide receiver, I think, aside from Chris Olave in this tier.
He is.
He gets so much red zone work. He's so good after the catch, and he's just a security blanket for Daniel Jones. It's hard to make bad decisions as a quarterback in the Colts offense right now when everybody you're throwing the ball to is just so gosh dang reliable. Pitty's going to be a certified wide receiver 2 rest of the season. T. Higgins on the up as well. We'll continue to move him up incrementally every single week if he continues to produce with Joe Flacco. And then Ladd McConkey had a 15-target week last week against the Colts secondary. We're taking that with a grain of salt because it was the Colts secondary, which is why he's going to be at the bottom of this tier. Not moving him up too much yet.
Yeah, I think, in this F tier, there's a couple guys we are a little bit higher on than consensus still, or lower on, and potentially. Marvin Harrison Jr., we've continued to move down our rankings. Nathan has him much lower than I am. I think he's just coping at this point. So that's...
What do you mean coping?
No, I don't blame you. I think you're more emotionally charged
coping for the trade?
No.
I moved him down that far.
Oh, that's right. You traded him. It doesn't matter anyways.
I moved him down that far before I traded him.
And then Xavier Worthy's next to him. And essentially it was a swap. It was a fine trade.
If I were coping, I'd be ranking him higher.
No,
what are you talking about?
I'm saying coping coping with the fact that I think you're just
that I
mad.
moved him off.
I think you're just angry, and so you're just moving it way down.
Yes,
because you have him lower than I do and lower than expert average.
I'm ticked out of my mind.
I know. I know. Xavier Worthy, who you traded for, is right there next to him. We'll see, man. He has not really been able to get it going yet. Like.
No, he's
still have hope though. This offense looks too good.
That's where I'm at. That's why I traded for Worthy to begin with. Again, like I would rather watch this offense. I would rather watch Worthy fail with this amazing offense than Marv consistently fail because everything there is just disgusting. And like at the end of the day, at least you have more hope with Worthy's situation than you do with the Cardinals as a whole.
Yeah. Quentin Johnson, we have ranked a little bit lower than the experts, actually, which is interesting, but I think he could be anywhere in this tier or really at the bottom of the D tier if you wanted to. Terry McLaurin, hopefully he's going to come back and actually do something this year. I'm praying that's going to happen. I have him 5 spots lower than you, so I'm just coping on that. Jordan Addison continues to produce, and he's just a solid wide receiver 2 at this point. J-Mo's more hit or miss as a wide receiver 2. Ricky Pearsall's been hurt, but we know his upside when he comes back. And then Keenan Allen, who continues to perform. We're going to sneak him into this tier before we get into the G tier as well.
Yeah, I'll just, honestly, I'll close it out with the rest of these tiers because you got Stephon Diggs, very boom bust. Travis Hunter will move up. We're not going to move him too high after a 125-point game where BTJ got hurt in the fourth quarter. Like, we will slowly move him up if he continues this on, and if he ends up taking over BTJ, I mean, that's great for you guys that invested in him. Chris Godwin will have to move up in the coming weeks if he can get back healthy because Mike Evans is essentially done for the rest of the year, or if he does come back, it's going to be the last couple weeks of the year. So Godwin is effectively the second option there for the rest of the season. So you can take away the Godwin versus Evans versus Igbuka conversation. It's Igbuka and then Godwin, and that's really it. Khalil Shakir, he'll have some good games. His ceiling is kind of capped. You know that situation in Buffalo. It's not great. He can't really move up much higher. Wandell is a guy that has been on the up for both of us. We kind of talked about how he's a nice, reliable flex option because he's just getting a decent amount of volume from Dart without offenses throwing the ball quite a bit. Kind of view him similar to Khalil Shakir, honestly, which is why they're back-to-back. DJ Moore had, I think, the most amount of targets that we've seen all year for him, and he still only had 8 points. No, he had 5 targets again. I lied. It's same amount of targets that he's had all year. It's just not pretty. It's really ugly there. He continues to move down our boards. H tier, a bunch of replacement level guys that you never feel good about flexing. Downs, Myers, Golden. Golden is on the up. Myers and Downs on the way down. Downs is hurt. Myers is in a terrible offense. Cooper Kupp, it's just, you don't want to start him. Juwan Jennings, Calvin Ridley is banged up right now. He's got that hamstring issue. Who knows when he's going to be back? That offense doesn't look any better with no Brian Callahan. Then you got Keon Coleman, Darnell Mooney, Rashid Shaheed, basically secondary deep threats for their respective offenses. And then Trey Tucker going to move up our rankings as well. Honestly, he could be ranked over Jacoby Myers in this tier, and I would have no issue with that whatsoever. And then the I tier, some guys that you're thinking about cutting: Cedric Tillman in this tier, Jerry Jeudy, who's cuttable at this point, Alec Iomanner is cuttable. Tez Johnson has had a couple of productive games. He's more of a deep threat in that offense. Brandon Ayuk, who knows when he's going to be back. Kendrick Bourne had another touchdown, which salvaged his day. Luther Burden in a crowded offense. Romeo Dobbs. Romeo Dobbs has these games every single year, so I wouldn't freak out with him. We're not freaking out with him. We're not moving him up our boards that much. And then Kayshon Boutte, who I already talked about him getting the touchdown. I meant Boutte when I said Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne going to continue to move down once Kittle starts getting usage.
There you go. All right. Let's jump over to tight ends here and start with the S tier. Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson are going to be our S tier. You know, Kittle in his first game back, he moves down to the A tier here. Kittle didn't do anything. I don't want to talk about it, actually. So he didn't do anything. McCaffrey did everything. I hate my life. And he's going to be in this A tier with Brock Bowers, who I haven't heard anything new, but people correctly pointed out on last week's video that he's expected back after the bye week. So he's back in a week. So that's good. So we'll have him here still. We're going to have him ranked high, of course. We know what he's capable of. Sam Laporta, who I don't want to talk about it. And then Tucker Kraft. Kraft, I think, did have
he had a good day.
Yep. So we're just going to keep him in this tier. I mean, like, it's nice. 16 points. He had that touchdown, right? He needs that touchdown. And so, you know, he's definitely booming more than he's busting at this point. Pause. So we will keep him in the A tier before we get to the B tier guys here.
Yeah, B tier is going to be Travis Kelce up top. It's just getting more crowded there with Rashid back, so you might see potentially more of a cap ceiling for Kelce at this point. Dallas Goedert, he came back down to earth after he had just a crazy touchdown run, and again, we kind of expected that to happen. Expect that to continue where he's going to be boom bust on a weekly basis. He does have higher upside than Kelce does, though. Just depends on game script. Dalton Kincaid, we can't really count the bye week against him, so we can't move him down yet. We have our suspicions. He's never had more than 6 targets this year, and a lot of his high-end production has come from touchdowns, but we did have a really nice explosive game against New England in week 5. So hopefully he can come back healthy against Carolina in week 8 and continue his nice run. We're going to be conservative, though. Kyle Pitts had another great day in a bad offensive showing for Atlanta. He did have 13 points, though, 10 targets, highest amount of target volume he's gotten all season. They got Miami, New England, the Colts, Carolina the next 4 weeks, New Orleans after that. Honestly, a pretty good slate for those receiving options in Atlanta in the near future, which is why he's going to be in here. Harold Fannin, TJ Hawkinson. They're kind of hit or miss, touchdown or bust for both of these guys. And then the C tier, a bunch of replacement level guys. I want to highlight one player, though, and that is Oronde Gadsden. He could eventually find himself up here in the B tier if he can continue this volume that he's been getting the last couple of weeks. It wasn't just 10 targets against the Colts where he was crazy. It was 13 points showing the week before with 8 targets. He had another 7-target one against Denver. 11 points with no touchdowns, 29 with a touchdown, very explosive. So we'll see if this can continue with him, but I think he's worth highlighting in this just massive pool of streamable tight ends.
Yeah, and then let's jump over to quarterbacks here real quick and wrap this up. We've got in the S tier here, hopefully Lamar Jackson's coming back. I don't know if we've heard any other reports here, but I know they wasn't practicing.
Harbaugh said it before the bye. He was like, we're going to have Lamar back.
Yeah, well, he's not practicing this week.
But so yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Not great. So, I honestly would continue to put Lamar Jackson in the A tier. I doesn't seem like he's coming back this week. And so until he's healthy, he's going to have to stay in the A tier. We're going to have to keep Joshy and Patrick Mahomes in the S tier here. Mahomes has been the quarterback 1 in the season still. So he had another solid game and, really solid half. And Josh Allen, he's actually the quarterback 9 on the season so far. He did just have his bye week, and so that's skewing it. Yeah. So on a points per game basis, when you're looking at these guys, 22 points for Josh Allen. But he is behind Lamar Jackson in points per game, and right there with Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and Drake May. And so those are the top 2 quarterbacks right now, though. And keep going here. The next tier guys from a production standpoint this year, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Drake May, Baker, and Dak Prescott all have been 20-plus point per game guys. Jaden Daniels is now hurt, so we had to move him down our rankings a little bit. Caleb Williams has been very hit or miss recently, so has Justin Herbert. Daniel Jones is solid, but it's just a lower floor.
He's been the most consistent.
He has been the most consistent. He averaging 20 points per game through the first couple weeks. Yeah. So, for the first 7 weeks. And then Jackson Dart, since he's been the starter, has been pretty high ceiling as well. And so worth definitely taking a shot on those guys if you need bye week replacement guys. And then Goff, Nix, Darnold, Stafford, Murray, and Love, the last guys we probably feel comfortable starting in a 1 QB redraft league, and then the rest of them in the DNF tier. So there you go. Again, that's our full updated rest of season rankings. Just a huge favor. If you enjoy this, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed as well. We appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you here soon.